Please be seated. Jury is all present and accounted for. We'll proceed after our morning break. Ms. Joy.
Thank you, Judge. Detective Sergeant Voris, what is the approximate total time that you spoke to Mr. Ferlazzo on the 19th?
I believe it was about 3 hours.
And at the end of the audio that we just heard, it appeared that you asked Mr. Ferlazzo if he was willing to sign a sworn statement form.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm showing you which been marked as states 129. Is that the form you were going over with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Move to admit states 129.
Any objection?
No objection, thank you.
Exhibit 129, states 129 is admitted without objection.
Is this the form that I just showed you?
Yes.
Screen. And so in the audio, in the down the right corner there, is that where Mr. Ferlazzo signed?
Yes.
When you asked him if he was willing to sign this, did he make any indications that what he told you wasn't truthful?
No, he did not.
Before moving on, the individual that you spoke with and that's on the video with you, is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Identified as Joseph Ferlazzo?
Yes, he's at the table, blue shirt, black tie.
Thank you. Judge, the state would ask that the record reflect Mr. Ferlazzo has been identified.
So reflected.
Have you interviewed individuals related to homicide cases prior to this one?
Yes.
Do you know how many approximately you were the case officer on?
At that time, I believe it was around 10, maybe, approximately.
And have you done others since?
Yes, since then, I've been assisted or been the lead on about 50 homicide cases throughout Vermont. I would say the lead on 15 of them.
Okay. And in your experience, is it common for people to appear tired or stressed during those interviews?
Yes.
Have people declined to speak with you during those interviews?
Yes, they have.
Have people told you that they don't feel comfortable speaking with you?
Yes.
Or that they aren't in the right state of mind to provide an accurate statement?
Maybe not in those exact words, but people have declined to speak with me for a variety of reasons.
Okay. Did Mr. Ferlazzo ever make any such statements during the time you spoke to him?
Never.
He did make a few statements about his mind not being right. Did that concern you in a way that made you question his ability to give a statement?
It didn't concern me from my standpoint because Mr. Ferlazzo was articulate. He was responsive to my questions. He said he wanted to talk like very early on. There was no concern about his ability to interact and converse with me.
Okay. And after you concluded the interview with him or with anybody, what's the sort of next steps you take in an investigation?
So I call it like check and verify. So when someone tells us something, we try to prove it right or prove it accurate and see if there's other evidence that supports what we're being told.
Actually, before we move on to that, I'm going to show you what's been marked as states 13. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what that is?
This is a sketch that Mr. Ferlazzo drew during our interview.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what he drew?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. State would move, or state 13.
Any objection?
Any objection?
Oh, I'm sorry. No objection.
States 13 is admitted without objection.
And is this that sketch?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a little bit small, but can you kind of describe to the jury what it is?
So it's the sketch during the interview when Seth and I, or Detective Sergeant Richardson and I, were talking about the layout of the camper van with Mr. Ferlazzo. He drew the sketch. It's kind of maybe appears upside down on the screen, but the bed is at the top. And then he depicted a couch, a closet, the bathroom, and he depicted the location where Emily currently was at the time of the interview.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the check and verify, is that what you called it?
Yes.
Okay, so in this case, did you, after you interviewed Mr. Ferlazzo, did you work to confirm or deny things that he'd made in his statement?
Yes.
Statements that he'd made. And were you able, during the course of your investigation, were you able to verify any of the statements that he made?
Yes, we were.
And specifically starting with the location of the incident, were you able to confirm?
Yes. We spoke with his sister, Nikki, and she provided information that was consistent with what Joe provided us. Emily's geolocation data was consistent with being at Bolton Friday evening.
And he told you that the homicide had occurred while Emily was in bed. Were you able to verify that?
Yes.
Okay, and how were you able to verify that?
The physical evidence is consistent with that. You know, the pillow from the bed sheets, the bed itself.
And what about where he shot her on her body?
Yes, that was confirmed during autopsy.
Okay. And he made statements about firearms located in the van.
Yes.
Were you able to verify that?
Yes, there were firearms located in the van.
Okay. How many firearms were located in the van?
I believe it was 2 handguns and 3 long guns.
Can you describe what a long gun is?
Like a rifle, I think there was like a short-barreled rifle, a shotgun, and another rifle, and then 2 handguns.
Okay. Did he tell you during your interview that Emily owned any of those guns?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you that Emily had a gun?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you that Emily slept with a gun under her pillow?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you that Emily possessed or used a gun at any point?
No, he did not.
May we approach?
Yes.
Judge, actually, I'm going to start with a stipulation.
Okay.
Did you confirm where Mr. Ferlazzo was the following morning?
Yes.
Where did you confirm that he was?
We obtained video of him out to breakfast at Maxie's in Waterbury, Vermont.
Okay. Judge, if the court could read stipulation states number 117.
All right, there's no objection to the admission of one.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, stipulation number 2. Members of the jury, the state and defendant Joseph Ferlazzo have agreed that you may find certain facts. This is called a stipulation. A member of the Vermont State Police collected surveillance video and a purchase receipt from Maxie's restaurant in Waterbury, Vermont from the morning of October 16, 2021. That surveillance video and a copy of the receipt was added to the case file and reviewed by Detective James Horace. The authenticity of the surveillance video and purchase receipt is not being challenged. Chain of custody of the surveillance video and purchase receipt is also not being challenged. As with any evidence in this case, in this trial, you must decide what weight you will give this stipulation. And that's admitted as states 117.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as states 14 and 15. Recognize these?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what they are?
15 is the receipt from Maxie's from October 16th, and 14 is a screenshot from the video from Maxie's.
State would move to admit states 14.
Any objections?
No objection.
14 and 15 are admitted without objection.
Detective Sergeant Horace, is this the screenshot from the surveillance?
Yes.
And can you just tell the jury sort of what they're looking at here?
This is inside Maxie's restaurant in Waterbury, and Mr. Ferlazzo is in the kind of in the middle, maybe upper left side of the screen near the door.
Okay. And is this the receipt from the breakfast that morning?
Yes.
Were you able to confirm where Mr. Ferlazzo went Saturday night with his sister?
Yes.
Where was that?
The Twiggs restaurant in St. Albans, Vermont.
Judge, the state would ask the court to read stipulation number 3, states 118.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
States 118 is admitted. Or I'll read stipulation number 3. Members of the jury, the state and defendant Joseph Ferlazzo have agreed that you may find certain facts. It's called a stipulation. A member of the Vermont State Police collected surveillance video from Twiggs Restaurant in St. Albans, Vermont from the evening of October 16, 2021. That surveillance video was added to the case file and reviewed by Detective James Horace. The authenticity of the surveillance video is not being challenged. Chain of custody of the surveillance video is also not being challenged. As with any evidence in this trial, you must decide what weight you will give this stipulation. States 118 is in.
Did you provide still shots from, surveillance videos from inside of Twiggs?
Yes.
And did we have 2 different angles of that?
Yes.
Have you reviewed them prior to your testimony today?
Yes, I have.
Okay. The state would move to admit states 16 and 17.
No objection.
States 16 and 17 are admitted without objection.
that clip just show Mr. Ferlazzo in twigs?
Yes.
Is this also inside of twigs?
Yes, it is.
Were you able to, did you ever locate Emily's stuff that Mr. Ferlazzo indicated he'd thrown away?
We did not.
Okay, and that was her phone and her wallet,
And her glasses, yes.
glasses. And did VSP, members of VSP attempt to find these items?
Yes, we did. We were unsuccessful.
And you were looking, how long after he allegedly threw these things out were you looking for them?
So we had several detectives and troopers that were assisting in the investigation starting, on the 19th, which was several days after this all occurred.
Right, okay. Were you able to confirm whether or not he gave his sister a tattoo?
Yes, we did confirm that happened.
And at some point during the interview, were investigators able to locate Emily's body?
Yes.
And was she located where Mr. Ferlazzo said she would be?
Yes, she was in the bathroom area of the camper van.
Okay. Was her body in the condition that Mr. Ferlazzo said it would be?
Yes, it was.
Did you locate the saw that Mr. Ferlazzo said he used?
Members of the crime scene search team located it in the camper van in the area where he said it was, behind the driver's seat.
Was there anything you learned after the investigation that Mr. Ferlazzo did not tell you during the interview?
Yes.
What was that?
I learned after Emily's autopsy that she also sustained stab wounds.
Okay. During your investigation, were you able to determine how tall Mr. Ferlazzo is
Yes.
and how much he weighed?
Yes.
And what was that?
I determined that through his DMV records.
And what is his height and what did he weigh?
It was 6 feet tall and approximately 200 pounds.
Okay. Did that seem consistent with your interactions with him?
Yes.
As part of the investigation, did you seek a warrant for call detail records for the phone number and physical phone belonging to Mr. Ferlazzo?
Yes, we had, there were separate search warrants for his phone number, a search warrant for Emily's phone number, and a search warrant for Joseph's physical cell phone.
Okay. And did you receive those records in return?
Yes, we received records for both phone numbers and for, the cell phone went to TI, our technology unit.
Okay. Did you review the records?
So the call detail records, or the records associated with the cell phone carrier, so Joseph's phone number was 802, I think it was AT&T, and Emily's phone number started with 603 area code. Those carrier records I looked at briefly, but ultimately are analyzed by our technology unit. And then I did look at the data that came off of his phone myself.
Okay. Judge, stipulation number 4 states 119.
What is it,
Any
Sarah?
objection?
What is it?
The phone.
Any objection to 119?
No, thank you. No, Judge, no.
Stipulation number 4, members of the jury, the state and defendant Joseph Ferlazzo have agreed that you may find certain facts. This is called a stipulation. Vermont State Police searched a red Jeep Wrangler belonging to Joseph Ferlazzo pursuant to a search warrant on October 19, 2021. During that search, an iPhone belonging to Joseph Ferlazzo was collected by Detective Sergeant Aaron McNeil. The iPhone was tagged as item, quote, Jeep number 2, end of quote, / quote, item 14, end of quote, and delivered to the Vermont State Police Technology Investigation Unit, in parentheses, TIU, end of parentheses. The iPhone was in the same condition upon arrival at the TIU as it was when collected from the Jeep during the search on October 19, 2021. An extraction was done of Joseph Ferlazzo's iPhone, in parentheses, AKA, quote, item 14, end of quote, end of paragraph, by Detective Eric Jollymore and added to the case file. That extraction was done in accordance with his training, and the authenticity of that extraction is not being challenged. Chain of custody of the iPhone belonging to Mr. Ferlazzo is not being challenged. As with any evidence in this trial, you must decide what weight you will give this stipulation. Page 119.
So after the technology unit extracts that data and sends that portable case to you, how does that portable case look from your end?
So I received the case from the technology unit. We call it a portable case. It's on, in this circumstance, it was on a hard drive, like a portable hard drive. And I plug it into the computer. I can open the program on my desktop, and then I can review the data that was on the device.
Okay. And is that program pretty user-friendly?
Extremely user-friendly, yes.
Is there any training provided in order to use it?
There's no training required to read a portable case. I have taken training to create portable cases and to extract cell phones myself. I didn't do that in this case, but the portable case it's very user-friendly.
Okay. So were you able to review any text messages from Mr. Ferlazzo's phone to Emily's phone between the time she was killed and the time she was located?
Yes.
Were there any messages sent from Emily's phone to Joseph's phone during that time period?
No, all the messages were sent from Joseph's phone to Emily.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 18. 4 pages. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell the jury what this is?
These are the messages that were observed, from Joseph's phone within that portable case that were sent to Emily's phone number.
State seeks to admit 18.
Any objection to it?
No objection.
18 is admitted without objection.
She's talking. I'm going home to get home.
Detective Sergeant Boris, can you just read the messages to the jury and the date and time they were sent?
Yes. October 16th, 2021 at 1:09:58 p.m. Message sent, babe. On October 16th, 2021 at 1:20:49 p.m. Message sent, what are you doing? Talk to me, please. On October 16th, 2021 at 1:52:47 p.m. The message was sent that read, where are you, lovey? I wanted to ride with you today. On October 16th, 2021, at 2:02:18 p.m., the message was sent that read, I'm at the Langs, call me. On October 16th, 2021, at 2:02:47 p.m., message sent, the tranny on the bus is smoking, with a emoji. On October 16th, 2021, at 2:57:18 p.m., message was sent, whatever, I'm going to spend time with Nikki while I can, call me. On October 16th, 2021, at 8:09:48 p.m., WTF, babe. On October 17th, 2021, at 8:45:24 a.m., message read, good morning, Bubby. I miss you. Please call me. Nikki just messaged me. You want to meet up in Burlington for some snacks and whatnot. On October 17th, 2021, at 2:03:02 p.m., the message read, hello, question mark, question mark. On October 17th, 2021, at 8 p.m., the message was sent that read, please M, pick up. On October 17th, 2021, at 8:12 p.m., message 2 emojis were sent. On October 18th, 2021, at 12:05:48 a.m., the message read, this is far enough. Get your ass home. I gotta go back to NH. Are you coming back? On October 18th, 2021, at 12:05:48 a.m., I believe that's the same message I just read. On October 18th, 2021, at 1:05:36 a.m., random question, where is the extension cord? I want to plug the fan in. October 18th, 2021, at 9:06:19 a.m., good morning, baby, with an emoji. On October 18th, 2021, at 10:25:51 a.m., you're an asshole. I don't deserve this shit.
Is that all of the messages that were sent?
I believe so, yes.
Ms. Jantz, any cross?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Morning, Detective Sergeant Voris.
Good morning.
On October 19th, the day Mr. Ferlazzo was interrogated by you and Detective Richardson, Spencer Lemons had already contacted the police through the 911 call and relayed to the police information that he had saying that Mr. Ferlazzo admitted to killing Emily. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And on October 19th, police were actively looking for Mr. Ferlazzo, correct?
Yes.
And Amy Nolan, who was at that time a member of the Vermont State Police, by happenstance encountered him in St. Albans and Maple Fields. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And she drove him in her truck back to the St. Albans barracks of Vermont State Police, correct?
Yes.
From the time that he arrived at the Vermont State Police barracks in St. Albans, he was never outside the presence of someone from law enforcement, correct?
I believe there were times where he was alone, like in the interview room, by himself, at points during the interaction.
Was he under observation through a two-way mirror at times when he was alone in the interview room?
That room doesn't have a two-way mirror, no.
Does not?
No, it does not.
Okay. Okay. At any point, was he free to leave?
He was probably not free to leave.
So we can agree that he was in custody during the time he was at the Vermont State Police Barracks, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So how long did you say you have been with the Vermont State Police?
Since January of 2014.
And prior to that, your law enforcement experience was what?
I have no prior law enforcement experience.
Okay. You did graduate from the Vermont Police Academy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the academy, you were told and given instructions on how to interrogate/interview a suspect, correct?
There was a class on interviews and interrogations, yes.
And you learned through your instruction, and subsequently, I'm assuming through experience, what is necessary in order for a confession to be considered voluntary and constitutional, correct?
I don't recall specifically the conversation around that, but I'm sure it may have been part of it. I just don't recall.
Well, you know that you can't make physical threats to get a person to confess, don't you?
Of course.
And you know that you can't even make threats of harsh penalties to get them to confess, right?
Correct.
And you can't make any promises of leniency, can you, to get them to confess?
Nope.
And the form that he signed indicated that he hadn't been coerced or threats made against him, correct?
I believe that's what it says, yes.
You also know that if someone is highly intoxicated, what they say may not be rational or valid, correct?
Depends on the situation, but that's possible.
It's possible. Or if someone is having a mental health crisis, that also may make the statements they are giving you not admissible because not rational, correct?
Not admissible? Are you asking if it's not admissible?
I'll withdraw that question and rephrase it.
Okay.
In order for someone's statements to be considered voluntary, they have to be able to think rationally. Isn't that correct?
That sounds right. I don't know the legal standard sitting here. Yeah, sounds about right.
Sounds right. So some things that might interfere with a person's ability to be rational are mental health issues, right?
Potentially.
Yes, yes, right?
No, I said potentially.
Potentially, depending on what?
I think you can have mental health issues and be rational.
Okay, so what you're distinguishing is the severity of the mental health issue at the time of the interrogations. Am I hearing you correctly?
No.
Okay, then tell me what you mean.
I just answered your question. If you asked if you could have mental health issues and be rational, and that I agree.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. And if someone had a physical condition that prevented them from being rational at the time of the interrogation, that also could be a reason why their statement might not be voluntary. Isn't that correct?
A physical condition?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Okay. So, for example, I'll give you some examples. If someone is severely injured and is unable to speak, to give a statement coherently, that would be a situation you would consider as not voluntary, wouldn't you?
Could the parties approach?
Yes. So, Mr. Ferlazzo, Joseph, came into the barracks and interacted with a couple of people before you and Detective Richardson came into the room to talk to him, correct?
Yes.
He was given coffee or a drink of water, correct?
Yes.
He was given a donut, I think, correct?
Yes.
And somebody said they would get him a sandwich. Is that also correct?
Yes.
Do you know that he said that he was really tired?
I know that now, yes.
Did you know that then?
I did not.
One of the first things he asked you was, what time is it, what day is it, correct?
That was not me.
You're right. I'm sorry, I withdraw that. He did say to you, however, I haven't eaten much and I've been up for days, correct?
I believe at some point he said that, yes.
I have a timestamp of 2:47 p.m., which would have been about 5 or 10 minutes into the interview with you.
Sounds about right.
Sounds right?
Yes, ma'am.
So he told you he was tired? He'd been, yes?
He said he'd been up for days.
And then at 3:12, he said, I'm really tired. Do you recall him saying that?
I recall him talking about needing to sleep or being up for days and maybe being tired, yes.
And then immediately following that, he said, I don't know what day it is. This thing is sort of like not really able to have a clear thought, or I just feel like you're stuck in a hole. Do you remember him saying that?
I remember I had asked him what he did on Sunday, and he couldn't recall, and that's when he described feeling like he was stuck in a hole. Yes.
And that he didn't have a clear thought. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that specifically.
I can show it to you if that would help.
It would refresh my memory, or if I could look at the transcripts, that would be great.
What do you show here? God's sakes. But this doesn't have the timestamps.
I know. I'll find it.
I'll just take your testimony that you don't remember precisely him saying at that point that he didn't have a clear thought. Is that right? You don't have a clear recollection of that?
I just don't recall the exact words, and so that's my testimony.
Okay. But something to that effect. You do recall that he said, I'm not thinking clearly, regardless of whether you remember the...
I don't recall him saying, I'm not thinking clearly. I recall him saying, like talking about his mind, yes.
And what about his mind? Recall him saying?
Just generally, he was having some trouble remembering some things, and I think at one point he said he was trying to blank page it, I took that to trying to forget about what happened.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember him saying, I never thought anybody could push me to do that?
I do.
Do you remember him saying, my mind is so broken, I can't think straight?
I recall seeing it, reviewing the interview. I'm not sure if I was in the room at that point. I just don't recall, but I recall seeing that, yes.
That he said that, whether it was to you or to another law enforcement?
Yes.
Do you remember him saying, I'm not okay?
I do.
And in response to him saying, making various statements about him not thinking clearly, you didn't ask him why he wasn't thinking clearly, did you?
There were times in the interview where I asked like what that meant. When he spoke about falling into a hole, I think my response was, what does that mean? So there were times where I did question what that meant.
Okay. And you didn't stop the interview, did you?
I did not.
And you didn't think that his statements to the effect that he wasn't thinking clearly was enough to stop the interview, did you?
I did not.
And when he said early on, "I haven't slept for days," you didn't ask him if he needed to sleep before you spoke to him, did you?
I did not ask him if he wanted to sleep before we spoke.
And then at the end of the roughly 2-hour initial part of the interview that we saw, he put the blanket around himself and lay down on the floor. Isn't that correct?
Yes, he did.
And slept for or we don't know whether he was actually sleeping, but he was on the floor for 40 minutes with the blanket wrapped around him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And then he was moved to a holding cell. Is that right?
Yes.
And he was in that holding cell from approximately, I think you testified, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And then you and Sergeant Richardson went to the holding cell to ask him more questions.
Yes, there was some interaction with Mr. Ferlazzo between 6 and 9 p.m., but around 9:15, we asked more questions.
He was sleeping, wasn't he, when you arrived at the cell?
I don't know if he was sleeping.
Was he lying down?
He was lying down.
Did he have the blanket over himself?
He did.
We all just heard the audio of your interview with him at about 9:17 or something like that.
Around that time, yes, ma'am.
Sounded very sleepy, didn't he?
I would say he sounded like Mr. Ferlazzo. I don't
Okay,
think he sounded
well-
sleepy.
Well, your only interaction with him was the original interview. I'll withdraw the question. He reiterated to you something he told you early on, that at the time of the alleged shooting, a wave came over him. Isn't that right?
He did reiterate that, yes.
And he had originally told you he had a feeling of warmth come over him. Isn't that right?
Yes, he also used the word rage.
Yes, he did. He also said loss of focus, didn't he?
Yes.
That's okay. That's okay. We found the page, but I'm not going to go back. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
No read back, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the court want to start the next witness?
If you have a witness available, why don't we start?
Who's next?
Seth.
Seth.